Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're going to be comparing a 2020 Lexus RC 350 F Sport to a 2020 Lexus IS 350 F Sport. So as always, we're going to do a quick walk around on both cars, then I'm going to decide which one is the best route to go. A huge shout out and thank you to the Lexus here in Murray, Utah for providing us with the RC and with the IS. Definitely check out their inventory in the link below. Let's get into the video. Go into the hoods of both of the cars, starting with the RC 350. So we have a naturally aspirated 3.5 liter V6. It goes through a 6-speed automatic transmission in this all-wheel drive model. Power outputs are 311 horsepower and then 280 foot-pounds of torque, with fuel economy being 18 around town and then 24 on the highway. Now over here on the IS 350, we have an identical 3.5 liter V6, same 6-speed automatic, same power outputs, 311 horsepower, 280 pound-feet of torque, but fuel economy is a little bit different. It's 19 around town and then 26 on the highway. So the RC 350 gets a little bit worse fuel economy than the IS 350. Now let's go over the front ends of both of the cars again, starting with the RC 350. Now you can see the hood on it looks pretty long, but the hood on the IS 350 looks just as long. We kind of have like the sports car hood aesthetic, but I love these new LED lights on the RC 350. They just look absolutely fantastic, super sharp, very modern looking, definitely looks similar to what the LC 500 looks, and that's just a beautiful car in general. You do have little parking sensors on the front, and then Lexus's signature grille, which I feel like is in good proportion on this particular car. Now coming over to the IS 350, this is kind of more like stereotypical Lexus, if that makes sense. It almost looks like a Lexus NX, but then shorter, basically. But you still get the Lexus check marks, all that kind of stuff. It's just not as nicely integrated as what's in the RC. So I feel like the front end on this looks pretty good, but it just doesn't look as aesthetically pleasing. That looks more like a sports car, whereas this just looks like any other Lexus. Now let's go over the tire and rim setup on both cars. So we've got two 35mm tires on the RC. On the IS, we have two 25mm tires, 18-inch rims over on that IS, and then we've got 19-inch rims on the RC. So the RC has a little bit of a nicer tire and rim setup just because it's wider and the rims are a little bit bigger. Now from a design perspective, I think they both look really aesthetically pleasing. Now the RCs just look a little bit better, but I think that's just mostly due to the larger size. They both have little F Sport badges on the sides of the cars, and then they both actually have two-tone mirrors. So this one's like black at the top with this little kind of like chrome strip, and then it's the atomic color on the bottom, whereas this one is white on the top and then it's like black on the bottom, which is kind of interesting. And then down the side of the car, there's nothing too crazy happening on the IS. On the RC, it kind of has like a little fake side skirt action looking. I don't know exactly what it is, but it still looks really aesthetically pleasing. And well, we're gonna be popping that back now. Here is our key fob for the RC 350 F Sport. And you have a couple functions. You have like your unlock, and then you have your lock, and then the trunk release. Now if you do press the lock function a few times and then hold it down, it does have remote start. It does take a second to start up. Oh, maybe I didn't press it hard enough. Wait for it. There we go. Now I have the magic touch now. But you can hear that V6 come to life, and has this kind of like nice deep throaty tone to it. But when you are done with all of that, just hold that down again and then I'll shut off the system. Now if we hold this will pop open the rear, and once the rear is open we can actually look at everything in the trunk. Now storage space back here is actually really solid in the RC. I feel like there's plenty of space and some extra stuff happening down here. It does come with a fix-a-flat kit and a first aid kit as well, so you get like double happening there. But when you're done with everything, all you have to do is just throw this back down. Oh, actually use some force and you're good to go. Now here is the key fob for the IS 350. You got a couple functions again. You have your regular unlock, lock, and then the release of the trunk, and this one also comes with remote start. We'll see if it sounds any different from the RC 350. Sounds about the same, so nothing really changed there. And then again, if we hold that down, that'll shut off the whole system. Now if we hold this will pop it open, but it doesn't pop like fully open like on the RC, so you do have to lift it the rest of the way yourself. And then once this is open, you notice the trunk space is pretty much the same size as what's in the RC. So not really much to add practicality on this side of things, but you do get a spare tire underneath, which is nice for those of you that love spare tires. And finally, when you are done with everything, all you have to do is just pop this back down and you're good to go. So let's kind of finish things up in the rear of both the cars. We'll start over at the RC 350. Now, I love the taillights on this RC. The new ones are absolutely fantastic. They're these full LEDs that kind of come down, and just a really cool aesthetic in general. And then you've got the nice bulging hips in the back, and kind of has a little bit of a wider angle from the front as well. Sloping roofline, just all the characteristics of a sports car. So it just has a really nice aesthetic from the rear end. Coming over to the IS, it's kind of the opposite deal. So the taillights, they're Lexus's older iteration on the LED lights, and I mean, they're not the worst looking, but they're not the best looking either. And then notice the roofline isn't sloped as much, but that is going to give you more headroom for the rear passengers. So you got kind of like a more practical car here, but then like a good, well, a better looking car over there. We're going to be coming to the back of the IS because, well, this has back seats, but it doesn't have a back door, so we're doing the IS first. So here is the door in the rear of the IS. You have this beautiful red leather, and you got this kind of like cool little trim right here. And then in terms of the seats themselves, again, they're more of that beautiful red leather. Just the feel of them and the look of them is very nice. You got this little like cup holder pull-out thingy that you can press this, and you got some cup holders. It also doubles as an armrest. And then you've got some vents here in the rear. Legroom is a decent amount. It's a little bit on the small side, but headroom is pretty solid in this. And if you want to see me sit in the car, just watch my review on the IS alone, which again, I'll include that in the description below. But there's everything for the rear there. Over here at the RC, we're coming up to the front, so that locks it, and then to unlock it, just put your hand on the back of the door handle, and, well, we can look at the door panel here in the front, and I love this door panel because it has so many, like, contrasting elements. So you have this trim here that goes kind of, like, all along, and then you've got these nice swooping stitching lines, and then more of the black leather with the stitching, then you got the red leather down here. Speaker for the sound system looks really good, and then if you are wondering, well, how you get in the back is you just pull this little tab right here and it automatically puts the seat back, and then if you push the seat back again, the seat kind of goes back. So it's a pretty cool little feature. But here's the seats in the rear. Notice that there isn't nearly as much legroom back here, but the seats are really nice and the paneling in the back is really nice. So it's just a nice place to be in general. And again, if you want to see me sit in the back of this car, just watch my review on the RC 350 F Sport. And you actually get backs here, or not backs, you get vents in the back passenger area, but yeah, that's everything for the rear. Now here are the seats in the RC 350 F Sport, and again, it's full red leather, and the seats themselves are very comfortable to sit in. They're very nicely bolstered, and the leather on it's just extremely soft. You get power adjustments on the side of the seat. There are the pedals down below, which they look really nice. And then you'll notice right here, you've got like your little hood latch, and then that is for the trunk. And then you've got a couple functions up here, so like the blind spot monitoring, parking sensors. And the steering wheel is going to be automatically adjustable, and there's the paddles on the back of them. And yeah, that's pretty much everything for the front. So let's head over to the IS. Coming to the front of the IS, we do have keyless entry again, just like in the RC 350. And I guess I have to have the magic touch. Oh, there we go. And here's the door panel in the front, which again, I really like. It's kind of like the contrast between the black and the red. Looks identical to what's in the rear of the IS 350. Now, coming over here, we can see the seats here in the front of the car, very nicely bolstered. Again, that red leather. And these seats are extremely comfortable to sit in. The leather is just very soft to the touch, and, well, that fell off the key. But regardless, we've got the little controls for the seat, and then you can see the pedal layout just down there at the bottom. And then you have all the same controls in this area as what the RC has. The only difference is, well, the steering wheel is manually adjustable in this, and there's the paddles on the back, but there's one more look. I'll start up the RC 350 F Sport, press that, and that little gauge cluster will come to life, and then the little screen will do the Lexus animation. All of that will come to life as well. Here's a full view on the steering wheel itself. Now, zooming in on the steering wheel, you have the controls here for the center screen, and then you got the pages button for the center screen as well. And then you've got like your collision assistance, you've got the lane departure assistance, cruise controls right there, red contrasted stitching inside the steering wheel, and then it's got this nice perforated leather, which is grippy where you're gonna grab it. And you got smooth leather at the top. It says F Sport there at the bottom. And you got your radio controls, voice commands, paddle shifters on the back of the steering wheel. And just the feel of them is actually pretty nice. And then you got the stock for the lights, and then you got the stock for the windshield wipers on the other side. And now got the gauge cluster, which is one of my favorite parts on this car. Just the overall look of it, just aesthetic wise, is extremely nice. I love how it actually moves from side to side. It's a pretty cool little look for it. And then I will show you the drive modes. So you've got the eco mode, and then you can press in for snow. You'll see that popped up in the bottom part right there. Press it down for normal, and then you'll twist over for sport. And it's cool that it lights up in red when you go into sport and sport plus. Just nice animation, kind of like what the LC 500 has. But that is everything for the center gauge cluster. Here's our infotainment system, and it's not a touchscreen. It is just with Lexus's little keypad, which I will show you the keypad in a moment. But it does take you a second to get used to, but once you do get used to it, it's relatively easy. And then here is the backup camera on it, so you guys can see the resolution, and you can hear those parking sensors beeping that I showed you earlier. But yeah, I mean, the infotainment system, pretty basic, has all the normal functions that any car would have. It's just not a touch screen. Got a little clock down here in this little area. And then we have our controls for the climate, which are pretty neat because you can slide these up and down to change the temperature, which I just think that function is really cool. I love it. And then down here, we have our controls for the heated and cooled seats, heated steering wheel on top of that, and the passenger gets heated and cooled seats. Here's the shifter for the 6-speed automatic, and then again, it does have that manual shift mode, so you do have to pull it and then just push it over basically. Well, that's drive and then just over for the manual shift mode. But regardless of that, here's the shifter for the drive modes. So you can see you've got the Eco, the normal, and then the Sport and the Sport Plus on the other side, stability control, and then the snow mode, a couple cup holders, and then here's the keypad for the center screen that I was showing all of you earlier. And then finally, we do have a little center console all lined with felt, and you can see a couple charging stations there, and it's nicely lined with leather at the top, and then you got stitching all around. And then glove box over here, we've got some nice trim up above it, and then opening it up, it's got like a little storage shelf inside, which is pretty neat. Finishing things up, we've got this sunroof, which is kind of interesting because it has this little holder thing, so you like push it, and then I guess that's like the first part, and then you can fully open it. It's kind of an interesting little thing. Softer headliner up top. You got all your controls for the lights and the sunroof and all of that, and that is pretty much everything. The one thing I want to mention is they do like black, and then it comes down and you have black, and then you have like the red stitching, and then it goes full on red, so it's cool, just the contrast of the interior. We're going to start up the IS 350, and this one's going to be a little bit quicker than what happened in the RC, and that's just because they have so many shared features. So you can see the animation, and there's the same gauge cluster animation, all that's the same. Now on the steering wheel itself, everything is identical down to the little F Sport badging. It even has the perforated leather. All the controls are identical to what the RC has. Everything you can see is the same. Now the gauge cluster itself, same exact functionality, so it still moves to the side. And then you have the same drive modes. You have the Eco mode, you've got the normal mode, and then you have the Sport and the Sport Plus, and then the Snow mode. It all looks pretty much the same as what you have in the RC, so nothing is changed there. The only thing that is changed in this little area is this does have a shade, so you can see that little button right there. If I press that, that'll pop open a shade in the rear, obviously kind of shade the rear passengers, which is a pretty neat little feature. And now coming over to the infotainment system, this does look a little bit different. The RC's is definitely a little bit cleaner and crisper just with the graphics. You see the backup camera on this as well, just isn't quite as nice. And then in terms of the usability, I'll show you guys the little pad they use for this. It's not as nice as what's in the RC. The RC's little pad thing is definitely a lot easier to use, a lot more intuitive. And the screen in general on the RC just looks better than the screen setup on this. Now in this whole area, this is pretty much identical. You have the clock, you have the same trick climate controls is what I'm gonna call it, where you kind of just slide your finger over it. And then you have the same controls here for your heated and cooled seats, heated steering wheel, same for the passenger. And then here's for that 6-speed automatic transmission. Again, you still have the manual shift, so you just got to pull it all the way down, push it over. that's all identical. Even the shifter, I mean, this is all the same right there. Now this is that little keypad thing. You can see that this is just not as easy to use as the little finger tap pad, so definitely don't like this as much as what I like in the RC. Now the center console does look a little bit different. You can see it doesn't have as much storage space, which is kind of interesting because this is supposed to be the more practical car, but we still get some cup holders. And then the glove box, same exact trim on the outside of the glove box even, and it's got the same little shelf thing, so that's all identical. And then finally, popping up top, we can see that the sunroof setup is pretty much the same, except it doesn't have that weird thing where it just like has the thing pull out with the sunroof, but same exact headliner, all that kind of stuff. Everything up top here feels the same. And then in terms of contrast on the interior itself, you have black at the top and then it comes down to red. It's just not as like sharp of, or it's a sharper contrast, right? You go black straight down to red instead of like a mix in between the two like what the RC has. Now let's go over pricing on both the cars. So this RC 350 F Sport stickers for about $58,000 and this IS 350 stickers for about $53,000. And well, to quickly answer your question, no, the RC 350 is not $5,000 more car. However, it looks better on the exterior and the interior, has a couple more features that are better usability wise, like the infotainment system. But this one has 4 doors, whereas that one has 2 doors. They have the same power outputs, same transmission, same engine, same everything. So they're basically the same car, but then they're also very different, right? They just look like 2 completely different cars. So from a practicality and from a price standpoint, this one is the better value. However, if you want something that is just a little bit nicer, looks nicer, then that's where the RC comes ahead. And I think that that's really where the RC would win, is it's just from the aesthetic standpoint. But if you're looking at this completely objectively, the IS 350 is the better all-around car. Now I want you guys to let me know in the comment section below if you would rather pick an RC 350 or an IS 350. Just yeah, let me know on that. But as always, a huge shout out and thank you to the Larry Miller Lexus here in Murray for providing us with the RC 350 and the IS 350. Check out their inventory in the link below if you're in the market for anything. If you're shopping for the first time, please subscribe, and then I will see all of you in that next video.